Welcome to Sports Right Now with Boots and Poops. Alright, Poops, let's get it started. Okay? How about we start off in the NFL? We got to recap that crazy week we just had.
Man.
Playoff implications all over the place.
You know what I thought was too bad? That whole Antonio situation took away from the games.
If you guys didn't see it, it was in the Jets game. It was Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Jets. Antonio Brown decides to take his pads off, his shirt off, his undershirt, chuck it into the crowd.
He just quit.
He
quit on his team. They were behind in the middle of the third
And did you
quarter.
see him running around the field, putting his arms out, and the crowd was cheering?
Well, of course it was the enemy crowd, but he's had personal problems for a long time. So obviously you don't wish personal problems on anybody. It's a sad situation. But also, this happens, the media grabs a hold of it, and kind of the games fall into the background. This was an important week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, big things happened in that week. Only 2 weeks left to the year. And the Antonio Brown story became such a big deal. I think that was unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's get into the playoff picture, though. What matters most.
It's pretty well set.
Oh, and by the way, Tampa Bay did cut him.
Immediately. They cut him.
Yeah.
Like when this happened. Yeah. Which was the right thing to do.
They had to. I mean,
he'd been cut by, he kept going to teams. It always didn't work out. That's the way it is, though, in sports. If you're a talented enough athlete, you get second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances. In the regular world, people get fired, and it's hard to get another job.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete, you get a lot of chances.
Yes.
I don't know that he'll get any more, though.
Let's get in the NFC. Here you go. You're going to see it
NFC is
on your
pretty
screen.
well set.
You got the Packers number 1. You've got the Rams number 2.
Well, that's not locked. What's locked is the Packers with the bye.
Are going to get the bye, which is huge.
The only thing really up in the air is, do the 49ers make it or do the Saints make it? The Eagles are locked.
The Eagles are clinched.
Yeah.
This stat is according to ESPN. The 49ers have a 62% chance.
That's interesting.
To making
They're saying the 49ers
whereas the Saints
are likely to beat the Rams, who are a much higher seed.
The Saints have a 38% chance.
But do you notice that?
Hmm.
They're playing the Rams, who are obviously, right now, theoretically a better team. They have a better record.
Absolutely.
But they have clinched their spot, not their position, but their spot in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be conference division champion. But the odds say the 49ers are going to beat them in this game. I kind of think it's true. Stafford, to me, has been unreliable for a lot of weeks.
We're just giving them the playoff picture, though, right now. We're going to get into the games on later this week. You got the Bucs number 3.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
And the Bucs.
No Antonio Brown.
No, but their injury situation. They've been plagued by injuries
all year. They had Evans last week. But they sucked.
He's not 100%.
They just flat out sucked.
He is not.
They were struggling against the Jets. They barely won. They shouldn't have won.
I know.
Against the Jets.
That team.
The Jets. Do you not understand who we're talking about?
The
Jets.
They're going to have to change their whole approach because they have Gronk has always been, kind of the security blanket for Brady. But their offense was geared around those wideouts because they were so great. Godwin, Evans, AB when he was there.
Yeah.
These guys are super talents. That's how their offense was geared. They're going to have to totally re-gear. They're down to one guy, and he's kind of hobbled. Evans is not 100%.
Yes.
So they really don't have anybody.
Absolutely.
They've got to re-gear, be a tight you saw in the key time, they first went to Gronk, it was a little high pass, went through his hands. Mm-hmm. Then they go to the other tight end. Break. Or Brocky, however you say his name. they're going to have to be a tight end oriented offense, which means, and they have to hope Fournette can pull himself back together.
Because Fournette is dynamic out of the backfield as a catching back too. He can catch.
And running.
No, well, obviously.
So if you're a tight end oriented team, you're kind of going shorter on passes, but you got to be able to run the ball.
Sure.
You have to run.
Yes.
And they really need Fournette to be strong there.
Yes,
Would you agree?
Absolutely. Then you got the Cowboys number 4.
Another unreliable team.
Unreliable.
They showed it.
They really just looked. They came out flat against the Cardinals.
Hasn't Arizona lost 4 in a row?
But you got to give some credit to Arizona
or
coming
3.
out.
Maybe they lost 3.
Everyone was super down on them. They silenced the critics with that game because they looked dominant.
It's because
It's
because they were playing the Cowboys.
No,
you cannot count on the Cowboys.
No, you can't.
The Cowboys are kind of like the Chargers, the Rams.
Yeah.
Most teams are unreliable. Now, I don't think that's true of the Bucs. I think the Bucs are a reliable team.
They almost lost to the Jets, then they got smoked by the Saints.
Let me finish.
They didn't even. They scored 0 points against the Saints.
It's not they're unreliable.
That's
Their
ridiculous.
players have been hurt almost after the first couple of games. They started losing their defensive backs. Then after that, in the later part of the year, they got wiped out on their receivers. So they have had, not only receivers, but their key running back. They've had injury problems all friggin' year. If it wasn't for those injury problems, I think they'd be choice 1 or 1A.
All right. How about the Cardinals, number 5?
Very weak.
Yeah, very weak.
Very weak.
49ers, number 6. Eagles, number 7. That's how it stands right now. Obviously, a lot can still change in that 6-7. We're gonna see. The only change is actually
the only change is
6 and 7.
Well, because
6 and 7 are the only.
If the 49ers lose, New Orleans will probably win. They're playing the Falcons.
Yeah.
They'll probably win that game. If 49ers lose, Saints, if they win, are in.
Yeah, let's get into the AFC, though.
I really think 49ers are going to win against the Rams. That locks it up. And I think both of those 6 and 7 teams, 49ers and Eagles, I don't think that anybody wants to play those teams because they can run the ball, hard-nosed kind of game style. They're going to be not fun to play against.
No.
Even though they're 6 and 7. One of them obviously has to go against two of either the Rams, Bucks, or Boys. But I would put all those teams at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. But we need to get into the AFC.
AFC is also Titans, not much to go.
Titans number 1 right now. As of right now, they have clinched a playoff spot. They have clinched their division, I believe.
Well, and they don't have a difficult game this week to clinch the bye.
Yes. So this is how it's working out. These are the 2 teams that can get the bye. The Titans can get the bye, and the Chiefs can get the bye. You can see that on the screen right now.
Chiefs are going to win this game if they care about it all. It's not a tough game for the Chiefs.
No.
What do you think about the Titans?
Titans, I think it could. I mean, they could lose, but
to who? They're not losing this game.
No.
I believe the Titans. They're another. That Vrabel guy, he's turned out to be a great coach. He's only been there a few years.
Yeah.
I think this would be their second. They hadn't hardly ever been to the playoffs for the prior decade. He's got them, I think, 2 consecutive division titles now. I think he's been there 4 years. 3 of the 4 in the playoffs. When they hadn't been I think they've been in the playoffs
and
once
they
in
don't
the
even
prior
have
10
Henry.
years.
This is showing great.
Without Henry for half the year.
Everyone's giving so much credit to Tannehill on what he's doing. He deserves credit, obviously.
Oh, he does.
But Vrabel is, I think.
And now they kind of got the running game going again without Henry.
Because Tannehill did not have a good game this week.
No, but they ran the ball. You
have to give some credit to how prepared they were. And how Vrabel really adjusted.
Don't you really give most of this credit?
Because that's a huge change to lose the best running back, arguably the best running back in the league.
After it's 8 games when he went out. Because 17-game season, there are going to be more games without Henry than with Henry.
Yeah, correct.
And to end up in the number 1 spot, nobody would have predicted that. Remember when Henry got hurt that week? We talked about it, I think. So did everybody else. Every show talked about it. Every show, Titans are done. They have no chance. Every single person I heard said, without Henry, Titans, zero chance.
I gotta say something.
How did that turn out?
Say something. I'm giving a lot of credit. I will say I am giving a lot of credit to the Titans. But this year is different in the AFC than a lot of the years we've seen in the past. Because the best team is 8-5. And
I don't think that's happened.
Excuse me, 11-5.
No, yeah, but 5 losses.
5 losses. Last year the Chiefs had 1 loss. They had 2 losses, but they had already clinched the bye. When has that happened?
I bet you have to go back 20 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more. But there's a reason for that. A big reason. That is the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
We're talking about the dynasty of the entire history of the NFL. That's why you never saw such a hodgepodge of teams. Mm-hmm. When you look at that, people say the Chiefs stand out, but really, the Chiefs were playing their best. They were playing the best they could, and they just lost to the Bengals.
Yes. Okay, but we ought to move this show along.
But because we're really talking playoffs, there's not much to decide.
In the rest.
We've got 2 games. Colts are they're gonna win.
What about the Bengals? Let's go to the next.
I think the Bengals could come out of the AFC.
The Bengals beat the Chiefs in a thriller. That was one of the great games that we've seen all year.
Unbelievable game. Unbelievable. That last.
The guts.
The going for it instead of going for a 3-point lead, going for that. It was at least I think it might have been 3 times.
I did not
with
like
all those
that.
penalties, I think it might have been 3 times.
He did. That was
it was
terrible.
crazy though. The one you could say the guts, but you could also say some questionable
That's
call.
Very questionable.
To go for that when you could have automatically had a 3-point lead,
very lucky.
and all that Mahomes would have had is 50 seconds with no timeouts. Mm-hmm. To me, it seemed like that was worth the risk to go for the field goal. But
they weren't going to lose.
But a very fun game to watch.
Yes.
And it really did show you how far along the Bengals have come.
What about the Bills? The Bills number 4, Patriots number 5.
Bills are like the Chargers, the Rams, so many teams.
The Raiders.
They could look like a serious contender to win their conference, and they could look like a team that shouldn't make the playoffs. It just depends on the week.
And then you have the Patriots 50-10 against Jacksonville.
Yeah, and of course, it's Jacksonville. I like the Patriots. I root for them. I've been a fan for a long time, but you can't count. What kind of a game is Mac Jones going to have? When he gets against a tough defense, what's going to happen? Maybe he does great. Maybe he does average. Maybe he kind of has a bad one. The thing the Patriots have is they've got a very good defense, and they can run the ball.
Correct.
And in the playoffs...
But that duo between Stevenson and... People forget about Bolden. He's great. He's Harris.
The third guy.
I know. Damian Harris and Stevenson. Then you also have Bolden out of the backfield back. He's great.
But, when you can run the ball and you have a really strong D... That's a very good recipe for doing well in the playoffs.
Yes. Okay, but we got to get to the Colts and the Chargers.
I really think the Colts are going to win their game. That locks up their spot.
According to ESPN, the Colts have an 80. You can see the Colts have an 85%
well, it's
chance
they're not playing,
of making the playoffs.
They're not playing a good team.
And then in the 7th, Colts are going to get in. I think we both agree.
Yeah.
Playing
then it's really a matter of the Charger-Raider game.
Chargers have a 58% chance to get in.
Is that
Raiders have a 51%
is that game in LA or
chance.
in Vegas? I don't know.
I believe that game is in Vegas.
It probably doesn't really matter.
Because the Chargers have no fans.
So it's not going to be any worse for the Chargers when they're out of town. They really lost all their fans.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one. We know him personally. But they don't have... When you see a Charger game, there are at least as many fans of the jerseys of the other team are probably more common.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean a lot.
Raiders have a 51% chance, and still and I'm sure the Steelers' chances will go up if they win tonight. they're still unlikely. Right now, they have a 4% chance, and the Ravens have a 2% chance.
Yeah, but they only have a chance.
Those teams are probably
that
out.
has to do with also the Colts losing, which I don't think is going to happen.
So there is
but
your
I think
playoff
one thing
picture right
we
now.
should give a little respect to the Raiders, though. All the stuff that happened with the Raiders this year, easily they could have just mailed in the rest of the season. It looked like they were a few games back. They came back. They've been playing hard for a couple of weeks now. I think that's a toss-up game.
Okay, now we have to recap the college football playoff semifinals.
Well, this has to be quick. I know we have very little time.
Yes. I'd like to start on this one. Bama absolutely shut down the Cincinnati offense. That was ridiculous. Cincinnati should be able to put up more than 6 points. Ritter just flat out sucked. I mean, he looked like he had nothing in the tank. They really just came out flat. I mean, I was expecting more from Cincinnati, thinking they should have so much motivation, not being a Power 5 school. I mean, and Georgia may have looked good, but guess what? They didn't play Alabama. They looked good all year against teams. And then guess what? They play Alabama. Poof, it's over. They got dominated in that second half. They played even in the first half, which you got to give them credit for, but dominated in the first half. And Bryce Young didn't even look that good this week. I know he had 3 touchdowns or whatever, but he had an interception. He had around 180 yards. That's not how he's been doing. And how is Georgia going to react when Bryce Young's having a good day?
If
Bryce Young's
he
been clutch.
has a
Yes.
good day.
If Bryce Young has a good day, this game I think is probably over. And
I would agree with most of the things you said today, Boots, which is an unusual thing.
Robinson also 204 yards.
He was impressive.
That is what Alabama needs, because if Alabama can get 200 yards out of Robinson, just 200 yards out of the run game, that's also a lock. I mean, if you can get Bryce Young playing the way he's been playing all year, and to also have that run game be as dominant, I mean, we're back to where we were last year, except better.
We're back to where we were
because Najee Harris
a week ago and 2 weeks ago too. It's very difficult to size up this Alabama-Georgia game because Georgia is the one that's been consistent. They've had one bad week.
So is Alabama, though. They've had one bad week.
Hold on. Georgia truly has had one bad week.
How is Alabama not?
The only bad week Georgia's had, the only time they didn't look good. They look good every game except for the Alabama game. Alabama has won a bunch of games not looking good, including this semifinal. They did not look like they were playing a clearly inferior team. The thing that's clear out of this is there's a reason.
You know what's also clear? That Alabama has a great defense in Will Anderson.
They have a great defense against a weak. What's clear now?
You were talking up Cincinnati all year. You were saying they were great.
I thought parts of them were. I thought those defensive backs were going to do something. They really didn't. So what's clear is Bama was playing a team that would have lost to any of the other playoff teams. They would have lost to Michigan, I believe. Mm-hmm. They clearly would have lost to Georgia.
No.
Bad.
No.
I didn't think Bama looked very good. I thought Georgia looked great.
No. Okay.
Bennett
looked great. I'll give you that. He was 20 for 30, I think.
And the defense looked good.
313 yards.
The Georgia defense.
TDs. That was ridiculous.
The Georgia defense looked very good.
I know. With Haskins got shut down. He had 39 yards. But what was really impressive is how they shut down the pass game and the run game together. Because usually a team can shut down one of those things. It's rare when you get them shutting down both. They didn't. Because McNamara was 11 for 19, 106, and 2 interceptions. Whereas when they subbed in McCarthy, 7 for 17.
I kind of liked him, though.
131
he added
and
some
a touchdown.
excitement.
At least he didn't throw a pick.
But that was so late also. That was late. The game was decided.
David Ajabu. That O-line for Georgia stepped up in a big way with David Ajabu getting 0 sacks and Hutchinson also getting 0 sacks.
Yeah. That was the difference here. The Georgia the defense has always looked good, other than Bama. The offense really looked good this time. And Michigan is clearly a better team than Cincinnati. So they had a tougher test than Bama did. Bama did not look as good as Georgia here. Frankly, they haven't looked good as Georgia the entire year, other than when they played each other. So the question is Alabama going to rise to another level again like they did in the first Georgia game? Or are they going to be kind of that up and down team like they've been all year, despite getting wins? And is Georgia really going to do what they showed us they can do last week or a couple of days ago?
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, that's all the time we got today on Sports Right Now. Me and Poops are going to be saying so long from our studios.
Happy New Year.
Goodbye from Sports Right Now.